On away we go. My name is Alan Hill, for those that may not know me. And I am delighted today to bring in the conversation, which is a follow-on from Brad Lantz last time, about how to communicate your value and worth in the workplace. So what I want to do at this point is share with you the process that I developed in coaching and helping others in job search. And this is going to be a real brief tour, but I think it'll be really relevant. And so I don't have a snappy name for it. So I'm calling it the value discovery process. And the first step you're going to look at and go, this is familiar. Well, it is, because I borrowed it from what's a format used for responding to interviews questions of, tell me about a time when you took on a challenge, or tell me about a time when you faced a difficult work situation, right? They ask you to be specific and use either the star or par format. I prefer par because it's 3 letters, not 5 or 4. And in doing so, this framework helps you to identify exactly what was the problem, what you did to solve it, and what the outcome was. And in my formula, how they felt about what you did. And the reason why this is emotion is because what happens is selling is about an emotional experience. So if people are feeling fearful oops, that's really big. If people are feeling fearful about an experience or about an outcome, and you come in and solve the problem, they're going to feel deliriously happy afterwards. And I had an example where I was talking to a guy about that. He said, he walked through this, right? The problem was the customer wasn't happy. And the customer wasn't happy, and I don't understand the chemicals, but it was they do chemical tests of like metal and stuff. And so he said, he called it an assay, ASSAY, I think, where they test the metal. And so the test wasn't satisfying the customer. So he redeveloped the test, and the outcome was the customer was happy with the result. And I said, okay, well, hold on, wait, like how big was this customer? Was this customer like 10% of the business, or just like another customer, or were they a big major client? He said, yeah, roughly they were about 50% of the business. And my eyes bugged out, and I said, hold on, how did your CEO feel before and after, right? He was terrified. And after, he was delighted. Yeah, because you just saved the company. You didn't just solve the customer problem. You saved the company from bankruptcy. Because if you lose 50% of your revenue in one shot, you're definitely closing the doors, right? Like that's an unrecoverable event. So he was able to, directly impact the company and the revenue of the company simply by doing his job. And the point about this is, this helps us focus and filter in on that emotional experience that we're giving others. So how do we quantify that? Once we know what the story is, how do we quantify it? And I like to say there's 5, whoa, gosh, the Zoom is really wild. There's 5 areas of impact: in cost, in time, in quality or safety, and in capacity or capability, and in people. So I'll do those again. Cost, right? Either reduced or increased. Faster, time savings, efficiency gain, productivity. Quality or accuracy or consistency or safety. Capacity, either more widgets per hour or repurposing a production on a cheaper machine, right? People, maybe you're improving morale, you're reducing absenteeism, improving turnover, right? Providing this training that actually leads to these outcomes, or you're inspiring and creating the morale that drives all these other factors. And this is one that I notice a lot for military veterans and leaders, is when they show up, they change the temperature in the room and activate people through their leadership talents, which leads to all these other outcomes. And so now that we have the story, we have the area where it was valuable. And this story's case, right, it was cost or money because he saved the company from bankruptcy. And then the question is how do we estimate how valuable it was? How much value? Well, in the story, I helped him by saying, you know, it was 50% of the revenue of the company, right? So that was significant. It's a harder number to, I mean, it's a hard number that he was able to estimate, half the revenue of the company. Good. Sometimes that's not possible. I'll have people tell me, well, I don't know, or I didn't track the numbers, or I'm no longer at the company. There's no way to know. And while that's true, there's a way to estimate it, right? If you don't have the hard measure metric fact, you can estimate it. And I tell people the brain actually does track and measure and monitor stuff. It just doesn't do it in a number format because that's not the natural language of the brain. The natural language of the brain is a comparative value measure. So it says, this is bigger than this. This is smaller than that, less significant, more significant, right? So it's comparing things to each other that it knows about. Well, we can use that in our estimating. So I'll ask people to tell me, and I'm going to zoom in on this diagram here. I'll say, how bad was it before you did what you did? Was it bad? Was it poor? Was it fair? Was it good? Or, was it excellent? And then the same thing after you did what you did in efficiency or quality or functionality or scope or whatever, how much better was it? And usually they'll be able to give me something from, poor to good or fair to excellent or something like this, right? And then we have these numbers that are approximations that are broken down in 20% increments, right? And I'll say this is probably from 40 to 80% improvement. And most often they will tell me, yeah, that's a fair and accurate estimate. And so then this becomes how we can help write our accomplishment statement, which I'll show you later. So these are all the building blocks that we're going to use to write the accomplishment statement. What we did, what was the result, and how valuable was it? So now this is how we're going to craft it into a bullet point formula that we can use on our resumes or in interviews or networking. And so what we want to do is we want to explain what that measurable result was. And in this example, it's a 38% savings in material cost with a connector word and the skill, value, or process we used to create the result. So I'll do that again. The measurable result, which goes first, and the method, value, or skill or process that you used to create that. So let's get some real world examples. These are actually from this training that I did at work recently. There's two folks, Jody Lemons and Tony Tosa, who helped me create these in a demo. Is reduce testing cycles by 50% through data analytics and team consensus building. Dramatically reduce the number of late features, boosting team morale and delighting both colleagues and application users. And achieve zero defects through automated testing and a focus on work in progress. So you can start to see how they're following this formula or format. And so again, it's what was the result? How did you measure it? Or how did you connect it? What skill or value did you use? And that becomes your bullet point statement. Now, a final point that I want to make is oftentimes people will tell me, well, I didn't actually deliver the result, or I didn't actually make the sale, or I didn't actually develop the innovation. It was just a proposal that never went anywhere, right? And my counterpoint to that is an idea is just as valuable on an accomplishment statement as the actual implementation of it for two reasons. One is because it has potential value, and potential value is value. It just isn't realized value. And the other one is it takes a whole team to do this, right? There's nobody in today's modern workplace that's going to get something done all by themselves. And so you can claim your part in the play, right? And I had a lady that, this was years ago, that told me that she was made a compliance database for her company, which is a big financial institution. And it was in compliance with new government regulations for finance organizations. And I said, well, how much was that database worth? And she immediately said, I didn't make the sales. I don't, I said, yes, but if you hadn't done that, they couldn't have made those sales. So how much sales did they make? And she estimated $60 million in the first year. So she wrote a database that helped her company realize $60 million in additional revenue in 1 year. That's a tremendous accomplishment. I don't have anything like that on my resume, I'll be honest. But I help people break down the 4 different areas where it takes to get from an idea from innovation to operation, right? So there's the innovation itself, a creative new idea to save money, serve customers, or improve the process, design, develop, and operate or maintain and manage to make sure that that team got the actual value realization. So I'm going to let that just sink in for a sec. So this is the process for helping to identify and communicate and translate your value, the value of what you've done, into something that somebody else can share and communicate and connect with, either in an interview or in a networking meeting or on your resume. So at this point, I'm going to stop the recording and we can take questions.